it's Saturday, time for your Muggles History of Magic. Okay, so first I have a quick PSA. Friday's video, Amanda's video, had a little bit of technical difficulties, so it's a little bit late, but it should be up shortly. I have a quick note for Nathaniel. He talked a little about Colin Creevey and his intentions, and all I have to say is I think that he's innocent. That's just my opinion, but I really like Colin, and I think that he's just genuinely super excited to be there and doesn't really have boundaries the way that normal people do. I think that he's just a really excited kid, and he's just kind of enthralled with Harry, and I think that his intentions are pure, even if they're annoying. In the scene in which Draco calls Hermione a mudblood, we get a little bit of characterization on Draco. We always knew he was snobby, we always knew that he was rude, we always knew that he felt superior, but here we kind of get a clearer picture. He does feel that he's superior to people, not just because he has money, but because he has blood status. He is a pure blood, and people such as Hermione are not. And I feel that this is telling because he's 12 years old, which means that values that he has and feelings of self-importance like that can only really come from one place, and that's the home. I think that that's some insight into Malfoy's parents. Obviously, we've already met Lucius Malfoy. We know what he's like. So I think we're just getting a better idea of the world in which Draco Malfoy has grown up and the way that he perceives himself and others. Next we go to Nearly Headless Nick's Death Day party, and I have an interesting note here. The date on the cake says 31st October 1492. This is actually the first time we have gotten a date. We've gotten a year. Before this, we actually didn't know for sure the time in which this was taking place. I mean, we assumed it was modern times, or at least close to modern times. And here we, for the first time, are actually able to figure out that this part of the series takes place in October of 1982, which we didn't know before. We also get my favorite line from this section at the Death Day party, and it comes from Moaning Myrtle, and it's very short. It's 4 words. Miserable, moaning, moping Myrtle. That's the way that she describes herself. First, it brings up alliteration. Obviously, J.K. Rowling is a big fan of alliteration, from things like that to names. People's names: Colin Creevey, Minerva McGonagall, Severus Snape, even the 4 Hogwarts founders are Rowena Ravenclaw, Godric Gryffindor, Salazar Slytherin, and Helga Hufflepuff. Also H's in general: Harry, Hermione, Hedwig, Hogwarts. There are others. I'm not entirely sure what her intention is here, but she uses alliteration a lot, and it kind of makes things easier to remember a lot of the time. The other thing about this quote is it makes me think of people like Myrtle with her self-esteem issues and her bullying issues, and also makes me think of Filch in this section with his squibness, and also Sir Nick. He can't get into the headless hunt, and he's very upset about this. It just kind of makes me think everyone's got problems, especially characters in this series. Everyone's got their problems. It's not like Harry is in this awful world by himself and everyone else is having a grand old time and everything's falling apart around him. Everyone's got their issues to deal with. Here we're meeting a lot of ghosts, and Carol brought up the nature of ghosts in general, who gets to be a ghost. And all I have to say is you actually do find out. It won't be for a while, but you will find out who gets to be a ghost and how that happens. And now, while we're on the subject of ghosts, I would just like to tell you a little tale about Thomas, Earl of Lancaster. The Earl of Lancaster is said to haunt Dunstanburgh Castle in northern England, and he was a nephew of King Edward II, but turned traitor, and he was beheaded for that. But he was beheaded badly. Apparently it took 11 blows of the axe to decapitate him. It was gruesome, like soldiers fainting at the sight gruesome, and this is the 14th century. I get the feeling that soldiers in the 14th century were somewhat accustomed to some gory sights. So I think that maybe now is an appropriate time to have a moment of silence for poor Thomas, in which we can consider the ways in which his botched beheading are similar to that of our beloved Nearly Headless Nick. Moving on to the writing on the wall. Hey look, it's Halloween and something bad happened. Cat was petrified. Speaking about petrification in general, this is a concept that's been around for a very long time. Greek mythology, of course, famous Medusa, She was so horrifying, if you looked at her face, you got turned to stone. It's also present in tales from Germany and Scandinavia, where they have rock formations and cliffs that are said to be petrified dwarves and trolls, respectively. So it's around in a lot of different forms, petrification. In fact, I guess in the 1800s, even here in America, there were a lot of stories of people being petrified, which all turned out to be nonsense, just crazy journalists looking for stories. But it's something that's around a lot, and there's a lot of legend around it. We'll see what J.K. Rowling does with it. And with that, have a good day, and we'll see you in the next week, taking on the next 3 chapters of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.